Welcome, everybody, to Strangest Species, Season 2, Episode 3. Welcome back. I'm your host, Mike Davis, here with the one and only Ethne Davis.
Do you think I really am the only one?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Who is late?
It was late.
Very late.
To this recording date.
I'm sorry. It's very much my fault.
Recorded a bonus episode with our 14-year-old daughter.
She was very excited about it.
Very excited about it.
So I didn't drive myself, and I found myself stuck.
With the girlies.
Yes. Which was fun.
Yeah.
Definitely fun.
Just,
But just
pushing us back a little bit.
Not a little bit. Like a lot of it.
A lot of bit.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Here we are.
Hoop Fest today.
Hoop Fest.
It was hot. It was beautiful.
Really fun. But it wasn't too hot.
It wasn't too hot. You're right. We've had much worse years.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Good support from
Great
some
support.
friends.
Actually, yeah. Both games. So I'm on a team. So we talked about this last week. This is the world's largest 3-on-3 basketball tournament. I am on a team, and one of our sons is on two teams. Now, that son who is on two teams has never played basketball before. He's a good athlete. But never played organized basketball. His teams lost all their games, but they have more tomorrow, and I feel good about tomorrow.
Well, I think he's also getting the mojo of actual basketball.
Yeah.
He's very naturally good at, guarding his man and, not losing his spot and kind of,
his last game was night and day different than the first one
For honestly never playing
play.
Organized basketball, he did great.
Like, it clicked. Like, oh, I can go get rebounds, and I can just go past people. And
which I was like, oh, this is not good. It was more let them do a team for the experience as opposed to like the chance of winning.
Right.
And so that's exactly what we're treating.
But it is fun because if you do really poorly, you get put into like a loser's bracket that you have a chance to still then kind of play in your own mini tournament of not very good teams, and you can still win a prize. Because first place overall gets a prize, second place, and then the winner of like this losers group. And so he's in two loser groups tomorrow. But I feel good because, like I said, some things were clicking in that last game.
So, hopefully so.
Yeah. But our team did great.
Yeah, you guys did great.
We did great. We won all of our games today.
Yeah.
So.
All two of them.
Hey, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah, that's the way you want to do it. Because you win two, you got to go home for the rest of the day.
Right.
Not be playing until 6 at night.
Right. That's the way to do it.
So we took care of business. We'll be back in the morning for more.
Yeah. It was fun.
In the quarterfinals tomorrow morning.
Basically perfect.
Yeah.
It was a really good day.
It was really good. I don't even feel too terrible right now either.
That's good.
I'll take some ibuprofen before I go to bed.
Yeah.
And I feel pretty good.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So Edniwa.
Here's a question. I feel a question coming on.
There's a very important question.
Okay.
Do you know what we're going to talk about?
No.
Perfect.
I have a good feeling it's going to be something strange.
It is a little strange. Have you ever done anything specifically all female for the sole purpose of doing it because you're girls? I have not.
I'm certain that I have.
Because I'm not a girl.
But I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But I'm certain that I have.
Yeah?
I'm certain of it.
Well, okay. That's riveting.
I mean, it's not supposed to be riveting per se, but like, I am certain if I were to search the annals of time in my life, I would find something. Yes, I would find something. But I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's the beauty of me putting you on the spot.
Yeah. So, but
I played in I didn't play in high school. Our girls did a powder puff football game. You know what that is?
I think so.
Where the girls play football. And so I got invited to be one of the cheerleaders.
That's probably so terrible.
And so I cheered.
How did that look?
I think sexy. I think good.
You're cheering or the powder puff football?
Both. But specifically my cheering.
I was going to say the grad fashion show that I did in high school, but actually I think there might have been a few guys. So
I'm today, thinking. Let me know if you come up with something. We'll just wait here.
No. It's okay. You can go ahead.
Dead time on air is good.
Oh, yeah. Dead time on air is the best.
We're going to talk about a mountaineering story.
Oh, all because we're ladies?
Well, I'm not a lady.
But I mean, like...
Yes.
Interesting.
We're going to talk about a all-female hiking or mountaineering team.
Okay.
Climbing team. In the Soviet Union in 1974. Led by a gal by the name of Elvira Shataeva. Probably butchering all pronunciation. Sorry for our listeners in Russia. I don't speak Russian.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
You should.
So remember when we talked about the Dyatlov Pass? So that was a big blow to Soviet mountaineering.
How come?
It was just so weird, and just to lose such, a big group of people. It's a fairly tight-knit community. Like, all of the really good ones know each other, and they train together, and they cross, and they're in the same clubs, mountaineering clubs and stuff. So I don't remember what year that was, but this was less than a decade, if I remember right, after that. And so Elvira she was awesome. She's really good at sports. This was a time in the Soviet Union when females were becoming much more prominent in many aspects of the country. And she was one of the first really prominent female mountain climbers. Now, she was married to a guy by the name of Vladimir. And he was also like super way up there in the mountaineering world.
Yeah, kind of like me.
Yeah.
I'm exactly like way up there.
And so he was the one that actually kind of got her into it. And she became really, really good. And she had this, oftentimes she would lead these groups of all female mountaineers just to kind of, girl power.
Yeah.
Do their thing.
I like girl power.
Like, she wouldn't always, obviously, because she was married.
Right.
To a mountaineer. But in 1972 and in 1973, she led successful climbs with all-female teams. And oftentimes, the way mountaineering works is you'll pick a mountain for that year, and that'll be kind of what, your goal is.
Like, you climb the same mountain the whole year?
No, but you'll have one that you're training for to summit that year, because the climbing season is relatively short oftentimes. And so, like, this year, if we lived here, like, okay, maybe we do Mount St. Helens. And next year we prepare and we do Mount Adams.
Gotcha. But
you're not doing Adams and Rainier and St. Helens all in the same year.
Sure. I see what you're saying.
And so in 1974, the women, but Elvira had decided that they were going to summit Lenin Peak.
Okay.
Which is a really tall mountain at 7,134 meters or 23,406 feet.
And very well named.
23. Yeah, everything in Russia back then was Lenin something.
That's why I had to say that. Do you think it's still called Lenin Peak?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it is. So, 23,500 feet is a really tall mountain.
Yeah, that is tall.
Like, really tall.
It is tall.
And so the cool thing about this peak, though, generally, Lenin Peak was considered pretty easy to summit. Even though it was really tall, it was first summited 45 years before this story, and no one had ever died on the mountain, which is pretty remarkable.
That is pretty remarkable.
So, generally, it was challenging, it was hard, it was big.
But it was friendly.
And it wasn't anything to be too worried about. So that was the one that their group decided they were going to climb that year. And so they had a team of 8 experienced climbers, all females. I don't think it's worth me going through the names because I will butcher them, and we'll never really specifically talk about them again, really, other than Elvira.
Okay.
But there were 8 of them.
Okay.
and they wanted to go climbing.
It reminds me of when you and my dad did Mount Adams.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Oh, okay.
Just one little part.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because it reminded me, part of this story reminded me of a thing that happened to us. So the big thing with this group, though, oh, I can hear your glasses squeaking in my headphones.
Oh, sorry.
That was funny.
Sorry. I was trying to clean them a little bit because they're so blurry right now. Okay.
So not only did Elvira want it to be a female-only team, but she also wanted to be sure that no men helped out whatsoever. They wanted to be able to claim, we came, we hiked it, we summited it, we conquered it, totally without the help of any men.
All right.
And she wasn't like a feminist. It wasn't like that. It was more, she's got some interesting quotes where she even talks about their group being the biggest doubters of, is this even possible? Like we want to do this for ourselves. We just want to go up there, you know? So they weren't like trying to make some crazy political point or anything. It was just, we want to do this on our own and we can, and we think we can, and let's find out if we can kind of thing.
Cool.
So they really didn't want any help.
Okay.
Now, as I said, Lenin Peak that year, up to that 45 years, no one had ever died on the mountain.
Okay.
But that year, there was a lot of extra snow on the mountain. It was a little bit different. And you have to remember, this is August. But
Right.
these mountains don't matter because it's always snowy.
Did you know what I learned today?
I don't.
I learned that you can ski or snowboard on Mount Hood in Oregon all year long.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Right
I'm surprised
now,
you didn't know that.
I know. I couldn't believe it. I was kind of excited.
Because you've been there, right?
Yeah, I've been to Mount Hood. But right now, one of our friend's sons, Robin's son, is there snowboarding.
Wow.
I know.
Is it landed?
Yeah.
Good for him.
I know. Kind of jelly.
Yeah.
There, 8 of them went, and
You
they're
get to
camping.
Is it like spring conditions? Can you go in like a t-shirt and?
I didn't even ask that part. I should have. I don't know. I don't know
That's
even.
the greatest.
I don't
Like the
even know
last
if
day you and
Robin
I went
knows.
skiing. Well, I went skiing. You went snowboarding together this year. That was like money.
Oh, that was fun.
Like things were starting to melt, but it was still nice enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I don't know what the conditions look like. I just know they're camping, and Landon doesn't really love to camp, and so he was expecting them to be like in like an Airbnb or something, like a hotel, and then just be snowboarding by day. But he has to also be camping too by night.
Yeah, we have some friends. So while I was waiting for you to walk with your girly party tonight, I decided to walk the dog. And while I was walking the dog, I decided to call a friend of ours and check up on them. And they're up at Priest Lake. And so I was like, oh, you guys camping?
Who?
You'll know in a second when I...
Oh.
And he was like, no, with my wife being 35 weeks pregnant and undergoing chemotherapy. Yeah. I thought I wouldn't make her sleep on the ground.
That's so nice of him.
Yeah. So, and I was like, you know what? I've kind of hit a point in life where I don't think I really want to sleep on the ground anymore.
Yeah.
Like Airbnb has opened up a new world.
Like even as well, I was gonna say Trek, but a lot of people won't know what Trek is. But even then, I'm like, ooh, I love the calling. That part, that ground part, is not my friend.
That is true.
Yeah, I would have been a great pioneer.
Yeah, Ethne and I a couple years ago, 2 summers ago, had the opportunity to do a pioneer reenactment of crossing the plains or whatever. And to make it authentic, you get no stuff. Like you just sleep on the ground.
You have like a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
But I'm not a spring chicken.
Yeah,
it's not comfy and it's cold.
Yeah, even in the summertime, it was chilly.
Yeah, we're up in the mountains and stuff. Anyway, so.
I don't mind sleeping in my hammock for like a night.
Yeah.
But anything after that, my back just doesn't like it anymore.
Yeah. Well, Priest Lake is pretty beautiful. Yeah. So hopefully they're having a good time.
Yeah. Anyways.
So side note. Yeah, many side notes.
So I don't remember where we were. They had a lot of extra snow that year.
Yeah. You were talking about snow.
And actually 2 climbers from 2 separate expeditions had died that year.
Because of the extra snow?
Mm-hmm.
Like an avalanche?
Conditions. I don't know how they died or what exactly
Made them die?
But yeah, in 45 years, nothing. This year, they already had 2 deaths.
Ooh, it's not a good sign for these
Not
girls.
a good sign. I mean, if you're on this podcast, it's not a good sign.
These ladies.
So, as I said, Elvira's husband, Vladimir, was a highly distinguished climber. I just have to make a quick note here. Their names are Vladimir and Elvira. Is that not the most, like, macabre pairing of names ever? Like, they must be vampires.
Yeah, they must be.
Vladimir and Elvira.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they have to be.
I like that.
I
wish
that.
our names were those.
Well, we could totally legally change ours if we really wanted to.
It's true. You still get to keep an E.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
But I think Elvira might be just as hard to spell as Ethne, but maybe not. I might get just the same amount of looks as I do with my name.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm sorry, I don't think I heard you correctly.
Well, at least there's that one Elvira, the old TV lady.
Like famous character from the Addams Family, right?
Not from the Addams Family, but looks that way.
Yeah. Okay.
So Vladimir was there at base camp before his wife and her team took off. But then he left for a few days to go climb another mountain and then was going to come back and meet up with her again and go home. So he says goodbye. He takes off and the ladies are getting ready to go.
And off they go.
Now, they were extremely organized, extremely detailed, extremely professional.
This does not surprise me.
Yeah, probably too
probably.
organized. They probably had like totes and totes and totes.
Oh, stop. No totes for backpacking.
That's what you would do.
Okay.
So, at base camp, now there were other expedition groups that were also going to summit the mountain at the same time. So they specifically set their camp up away from the men, again, to be their own little unit. And on the 2nd of August, they set off to start climbing.
Okay.
And they get all the way to 20,000 feet. And remember, it's 23,500 feet. So they get, almost to the summit. And they set up camp to rest for the night. And they radio into base camp. And when they radio into base camp, it's interesting. They report that everything's going good. Mm-hmm. And that they're actually a little disappointed in how easy the route has been to that point.
Oh, they cursed themselves.
Jinx themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the way it goes.
I was like, oh, this is too boring. Mm-hmm. We just walked right up here.
Dang.
Yeah. So, as I said, there were several male teams that were also around climbing. One from Japan, for example.
Okay.
One of those groups had offered to follow behind the girls in case they needed anything. And they had specifically refused and waited for everyone else to start their climbs before they started.
Okay.
Because they really didn't want anyone helping them.
Okay.
So, 3rd of August was the day they were going to summit. So they wake up and they get to the top of the peak. No problem.
Okay.
They do it.
Well, that was way easy.
Yeah. See, it's a happy ending.
Yeah. And we're over.
We're over.
That's it.
It's a short one tonight. Only 8 minutes. Oh, no, 18 minutes. Oh, good. I can get to bed early.
Yeah.
Just kidding. So on the 4th, the weather starts to turn for the worst.
Shocking. This is shocking.
It starts snowing. So Elvira radios down that everything's good. And she actually, not only everything good, she's excited that it's snowing. Because she says it'll cover the tracks of any of the other mountaineers. And so that nobody will be able to claim that they followed anyone else's tracks to get on or off the mountain.
Interesting. Okay.
So, perfect. Cool. She's happy. What do you think's going to happen? Are they going to run into a Bigfoot or a Yeti?
That would be really cool if Yetis were real.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think what's going to happen is their visibility is going to be lost and they're not going to be able to see each other and they're not going to be able to find each other.
That happened to me on Mount Adams.
That's why I think that's going to happen.
Yeah. I lied to you. They haven't summited yet. On August 3rd, when I told you they summited, they just reported that they were going to summit the next day.
Oh, okay.
Then the weather changes. But on the 5th, they do make it to the summit.
Okay.
But she immediately radios down, claiming that the visibility was so poor that they can't find the descent path. So they're at the top of the mountain. They made it, but it's so snowy and so windy that they can't see how to get back down the mountain. Now, so they set up their tents and they decide maybe we should just wait it out. Now, I have been in this very scenario. Not on a mountain this high, but Mount Adams is pretty high. And we weren't even all the way to the summit. But it's crazy how different everything looks going back. Like you go up the mountain, it looks one way. You turn around and it looks totally different.
Right.
And there was a point, so your dad and I, it was super, super, like no visibility.
Right.
And we were talking like 10 feet, 5 feet. We couldn't see each other. Winds howling. And I remember we got out of that storm and onto this big ice field coming down. And I thought for sure I knew which way to go to get home. And your dad was like, no, like we need to go this way. And I was like, if you say so, like I'll trust you. But I would not have gone that way because it's just a big giant white thing in all directions, right? Like, and if you don't land on the right spot, well, when you get off the big white thing, you're not on the trail.
Yeah, exactly.
You're off
in the middle of
3 miles in the woods somewhere, you know? And so I can see how easy it would be to not know where the descent path is and how scary that would be.
So hopefully my dad was right.
He was.
Oh, good.
Because you don't want to get on the wrong descent path.
I mean,
find
no.
yourself
in like a
falling
giant
off of a
bowl.
cliff or a bowl or whatever. So they set up their tents, but they don't have a good option here. It's either camp on the summit at 23,000 feet.
That is not great. With zero visibility and snow.
This is in the 1970s. So, I mean, their gear's not bad, but it's not anywhere near
what it
is now. And
or
you're
try
in
to go down.
Such an oxygen depleted zone that it's hard to be up there.
It's like they're going to get oxygen poisoning or whatever that term is.
Yeah.
Altitude sickness.
Or you try to descend in this storm.
But go down the wrong path.
But you don't know where you're going. You've never been up there before.
Right.
You've refused any help, so there's no teams, there's no tracks, there's no anything else around. So they decide they're going to set up their tents and call into base camp. Base camp agrees with them and says, hey, if you can't see, you can't come down. You're going to have to just wait it out, and hopefully in the morning it'll be good, and get up and get out of there as early as you can.
Okay.
On the 6th, they wake up, and guess what it looks like?
Still snowy and still windy and
Correct.
Still you can't see.
Correct.
And also probably a lot of snow on their tents.
Probably. So they're waited out. By 1 p.m., nothing's changed. Except the wind's now way windier.
Oof, this sounds like my nightmare.
Yeah. So they call down to base camp and they say, hey, can you give us directions on how to get down? Like, can you give us landmarks? Can you give us anything? And base camp essentially tells them, we can't give you any directions. I mean, if you see any tracks, you can follow those. But if not, you got to just stay put and wait it out. And obviously there's no other tracks. And so they have to just stay put. So by 5 p.m., still nothing has changed. And now everyone's getting real frustrated and real tired of being stuck at 23,000 feet.
Okay.
And they just want to get down. But this time when they radio, they also ask to speak to the camp doctor.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong. Now, the base camp is kind of stunned by this because they haven't heard anything. And so they bring the doctor on and they report they have a teammate who has been throwing up for a day. And another who doesn't feel well. Now, in their defense, so base camp actually gets really mad at him and reprimands Elvira for not informing them.
Mm-hmm.
In her defense, she probably assumed that it was altitude sickness. And it's kind of to be expected. Like, it's not something bigger, But now base camp orders them to begin their descent. Like,
but I mean, like,
you can't stay up there. You've got to come down.
Right.
So what do you do at this point?
Cry.
Cry. But then like your tears freeze to your face.
But that's what I do. Because I'm not a mountaineer. And I love hiking. Like you give me a hike, I get a view at the top. It's beautiful. I find a waterfall, whatever. I have no desire to like be in these conditions and try to say that so to me, I'm just like, this is what are your options? Neither of them are great.
Not good options either way around.
So you just sit in a hole and cry because you could die either way. And so maybe I cry it out a little bit, get it off my chest, and then I can regroup. But like there would be so many thoughts and emotions in this situation. Maybe regrets. Like, why was I so prideful? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Whatever. And then you regroup, and then you talk to everybody, and you get the feel from the whole group, I guess, and just say we've got to go down. Like we're being ordered to go down, essentially.
Yeah.
And so
I wonder how worried you are being that experienced. Like you're not in a good situation.
Well, but with altitude sickness, if I remember correctly, it's almost like the bends with scuba diving. Like you don't think properly. You're not, it's like you're inebriated, like you're drunk or intoxicated. Like your brain doesn't
I don't know.
Function
I'm not saying you're wrong.
But I think it's similar. Like
I know with hypothermia, those kind of things happen. Like oftentimes hypothermic patients or people will take their clothes off because they get super hot feeling.
Because they're like almost so cold they're burning, but like their brain isn't.
But they'll do lots of irrational things.
Right. I think the same thing happens with altitude sickness. So then you're like, am I thinking clear? Like, you know what I mean? Are they actually thinking clearly? There's just so many factors here. I
just wonder if Elvira and the other women are all like, yeah, we don't want to go down right now because it's going to be way harder, but we can do it. Like we're well trained, or if it's really like we have no other option, but man, this sucks because we might not make it. Like I wonder where they're at there. Yeah. Or if you're so sick of being in the wind up there that you're like, okay, I'll take my shot.
Yeah. I mean, vomiting for a day already is not a good sign.
So interesting enough, and I don't have the details on what exactly this was, Elvira and the rest of the team thought that her liver was giving her some kind of issue. And
livers. Do livers oftentimes give people issues?
Yeah, unless you're an alcoholic or
That's
diabetic.
Like a weird thing to think. They didn't think it was like appendix or like
and so
liver.
They were ordered to give her an injection, but I don't know of what or for why or. And so I don't know if there was more of a medical emergency than
I don't know much about
we know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So on August 7th, the next day at 8 a.m., so they start their descent. They pack up, whatever that looks like, and they start heading down the mountain. So at 8 a.m. the next morning, Elvira radios in that during the descent at 11 p.m., so obviously they're coming down at night, that one of the team members died.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just seems sudden.
Yeah. Just goes, man.
Okay.
And so, and I don't know if this is what the sick member or if someone died of hypothermia or.
She doesn't tell you which one?
I don't believe I read which one it was.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
They did. I just didn't write any of the names down because I didn't want to bog the story down with all these names and no one would keep straight.
Right.
So 15 minutes after that, base camp puts together a team of climbers from essentially all over the world. There's Americans there, there's Japanese there, there's Russians there that are all trying to climb this mountain, right?
They're like, I want to go commit suicide.
Yeah. So they put together this rescue team, but the weather's so bad they can't even leave. Like they can't get up to go help at all. And then on top of all of that, there was an earthquake at the same time.
Oh my gosh. This is literally making me like anxious.
Now, I don't think the earthquake really did a whole lot, but just for some extra excitement, to the story.
Still like, oh, these poor people. Okay, keep going. So there's the earthquake. The rescue team can't even come up. Person dying.
The person dying. What do you do with the dead person? I mean, you leave them there. That's what you do.
Yeah, that's the only option.
There's like Mount Everest is covered with dead bodies.
Yeah, but so yeah,
because you can't go get them.
Right. So there's no other option.
Yeah. So that was at 8 a.m. that she called that in. At 2 p.m., she calls into camp.
There's another person dead?
2 more have died.
What is happening?
It's just the conditions are so brutal.
But we don't know from what.
Well, these ones now are dying from hypothermia.
They are.
Yeah. Not only have 2 more died, but the wind has blown away a lot of their gear, and they only have 3 sleeping bags left for the 5 women who are alive.
That's going to get snuggly.
That's going to be tricky.
It's going to get snuggly.
She also reports 4 of them have severe frostbite.
This is terrible.
Yeah.
There's no cover? Like you can't find like a rock or a cave or a...
No, when you get up that high, it's just sheer glacier,
this is so
snow
terrible.
Fields.
Ugh. Okay.
I mean, there's nothing to stop the wind. You're above trees. You're above...
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Ugh, gosh.
And they haven't gotten very far, unfortunately.
It doesn't sound like it yet.
In their descent.
But even if at base camp it's so terrible that they can't even leave, it's not like they're going to get any reprieve.
Yeah. So at 3:15, it's an hour and 15 minutes later, she radios in that they are too cold to try to dig in and create any kind of shelter or get anything, and that their backpacks have all blown away. So now they have no gear.
Their backpacks came off their bodies, but they didn't blow away?
Yeah.
Or they just let their backpacks go?
I don't know.
Huh, weird.
Maybe they're just really tired and stopped to take a break, and then the wind blew it down the hill, and then they couldn't get to it.
So terrible.
They can't see where it is. Maybe it's not even far away, but they can't find it.
Right.
So now they have no gear whatsoever at 3:15.
No gear, and they can't even... I mean, they have no energy or ability to, like, make any kind of shelter.
Right.
Okay.
So, can you imagine being at base camp? I mean, you can't.
There's nothing you can do.
Yeah. At one point, actually, base camp doesn't radio to them, but radios to the other climbers, essentially. It's going to be over soon. Like, the tragedy is going to be over soon. They're going to die. They don't say that, but we can't get to them, and they're not getting off the mountain. Mm-hmm. And that's just got to be a tough place to be. Yeah. Again, these are all such close-knit.
They all know each other.
And Elvira's husband's like the captain of all of these guys, and he's supposed to be coming back. Like, he just left to go climb his own mountain for a few days, and
wow.
And so at 9:12 p.m., so this is roughly 6 hours after the last radio, a different lady radios in. Not Elvira. This lady's name is Galina. She radios back to base camp, and they can barely understand what she's saying. And they can hear her kind of trying to mumble some words. She's crying. She's shivering. And she finally tells them, there are only 2 of us left. We can't go on anymore. In 15 to 20 minutes, we'll be dead.
Wow.
Yeah, that'd just be a surreal place to be.
Yeah, because there's really no other option.
There's no other option. The base camp did receive 2 more calls after that, but all they could hear was the howling wind. Like, whoever was calling didn't have enough energy to actually say anything. And so they all perish. Now, once the storm subsides, and I don't know how long it went, another day, 2, 3.
Right.
Actually, it must have been really pretty dang quick, actually, than a day or so. And there's a team of American and Japanese climbers that are the first ones up, and they find 7 of the bodies.
And there was 8 total?
There were 8 total.
Okay.
They can only find 7, though. So for a quick moment, they think, like, oh, maybe someone's still alive somewhere. And it's fascinating because the story takes place over a day and a half or whatever. But like I said, they really didn't get very far. By the time these guys get up there, it's crystal blue skies, and then there's this giant white vast fields, and you can just see these little black
dead bodies,
7 dots, but you can see them all though. Like,
yeah,
it's not that they're hiding. It's not,
right. Nope.
Not like the Outlive Pass where some up in a tree and some over here in a stream.
No, it's
like,
just, okay.
They're just littered there. Yeah. So they go and they place flags by each one of the bodies. But again, they can only find 7 of them. The Japanese climbers set up a tent. And this is really kind of ethereal, kind of creepy, kind of strange. Afterwards, they said every time that they would go into their tent, it sounded like they could hear a woman calling to them. But the second they would go back outside, they couldn't hear it. They couldn't find anyone. They'd go back in the tent. They could hear this woman crying.
Oof. I don't know if I like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird. But they could never find anything. And they never found the 8th body.
Ever.
Well, these guys didn't.
Oh, okay.
And so then...
Did they identify all the bodies and stuff?
So they didn't because they didn't know who they were, right?
Right, but I mean, did someone take them down or...
We'll get there.
Oh, okay.
And we'll get there if I don't put my pages the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And go back to the beginning of the story.
That would be weird.
So not too long after that, Vladimir returns.
The hubby.
Mm-hmm. Now, he does not know anything about what's happened.
Right.
And he gets to base camp and everyone's mourning.
Yeah.
Everyone. And you can tell, like, there's been a tragedy. And he's told your wife and the entire team has died. Which I'm sure, like anybody, would just break your soul, right?
Right.
But he actually is the first, he heads up a team, and he's the first Soviet to go back to the summit. And he goes back up to identify the bodies because he knows all the women. And he's actually written a book about this. I haven't read it, obviously, but he details, every second of that climb to go find his wife
and
her. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so he gets up there, and again, picturesque blue skies. And he can see 7, bodies now with flags. And the first one he finds and he goes to is his wife. And he makes a very detailed report, what she's wearing, what she's holding. Whatever he's supposed to do very methodically. But man, that'd be so crushing.
Yeah, it would. That would be so hard.
And he knows perfectly well he can't bring her down.
Right.
It's just impossible,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so he goes and, to identify and he identifies all 7. And he actually ends up finding the 8th body buried underneath one of the other women.
Oh, really? Like they were trying to protect her?
Probably. And so that's why the Japanese team missed them, just because they were buried underneath. So the team digs 2 graves, and they bury all 8 women on the summit up there. Now, interesting side note, a year later, Vladimir got permission to go and retrieve the bodies.
Exhume them?
Mm-hmm, and bring them down. And normally you don't do this again because it's just too risky.
But why would you even care at this point?
I think it was such a big national, maybe not national, but in the community, it was such a big loss.
Sure, but
female. So he got permission from the whatever climbing association of the Soviet Union, whatever. So he started putting a team together, and he got climbers from all across the country to volunteer to come over and go up with him. Tons and tons. Amateur climbers, pro climbers.
Wow.
And so they actually went up over 2 weeks. It took them to retrieve the bodies.
But they would just be not much left, right?
Well, they'd be frozen solid. They probably look no different whatsoever than when they left them.
True. Good point. Okay.
So then they brought him down, and they buried him at the base of the mountain. with actual graves and a memorial and things like that.
That's sad.
It is sad.
Yeah. I mean, the weather in those instances, you only have, you know what I mean? You only have so much time.
Yeah.
Where
you only have so much gear.
Yeah, the weather wins. Like
you
the
have
weather
so much
just
oxygen.
Right. The weather just won that battle.
Yeah. Like I said, the one time we tried to climb Mount Adams, which is nowhere near as tall as that. I mean, it's almost 10,000 feet shorter.
Right.
And it was in the middle of summer, and we got caught up in a crazy blizzard.
And like it was beautiful.
It was beautiful on the base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
when we got back down to the ground, you look up and just like there's clouds on the top of the mountain.
It doesn't even look.
It doesn't look like there's some raging storm.
Right. It's kind of. What's the word? Like you're so insignificant.
Oh, totally.
Like what's the word?
I don't know what word you're looking for, but you're dead on.
Yeah. Just
like you are nothing in this greater universe, world, power.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And so it's but it's fascinating too, because just that mountain had been one that was so easy, quote unquote, you know, for being so big. Never had taken a life in 45 years, and then took 10
in that one year. Season. Must have been a really rough weather pattern.
Yeah.
You know, coming through. So, yeah, it's kind of sad. I thought you were going to, I thought at first, I was like, oh, the 7th one, maybe the 8th one used the other body as protection, and they were actually alive in there or something, like some other little caveat.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have a happy ending.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, still,
for you.
Even if only one was live, it's still sad. But I mean, I just thought maybe there was some interesting
sliver of hope.
Yeah, I know. I'm always that person.
Nope. Just tragedy.
And
sadness.
Just tragedy and sadness.
Yep.
Perfect.
So,
oh, gosh.
Alrighty. Well, it's kind of a shorter episode today, but I've got to get to bed. More basketball games tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Elvira, we hear you. We know you're there.
Yeah. I mean, I hear a dog barking.
That's true.
That's all I can hear.
That's all I can actually
Are you calling Elvira a dog?
No.
You think she's been reincarnated into that dog?
Reincarnated? She could have been.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know how that all works.
I don't either. So, well, you guys have a good week. Next week is happy birthday to the United States of America.
That's right.
And Canada. Which is great. And probably other places out there too.
We got a week full of partying coming up around here.
We sure do.
So, all right, everyone. Have a wonderful week. We will be back with another story next week. Go figure. And until then, have a wonderful time. Bye.
Goodbye.